The second generation. They were born in the wilderness. Surely they heard from their parents what they experienced in the past. They inherited positively everything from the previous generation. Now they were formed. They were trained. They were ready. And God had arranged for a transfer of the leadership from Moses to Joshua. So Numbers ends with this army poised to enter the good land. And then there's a portion concerning how to allocate the portions of the good land. So this ends on a glorious, victorious note. So actually, chronologically, Joshua in action comes right after Numbers. So we need to allow this to sink into us and to have this understanding grounded by our giving us a kind of overview, by our having a kind of overview of the book of Numbers to see how it begins and how it ends. Yes, there's rebellion. There's disorder. This is war. But all of that is dealt with. Even that becomes part of the preparation of the overcomers. Then you have Joshua and Caleb, we'll see in message 11. They're the only two from the generation that came out of Egypt. They are the experienced warriors. I'm looking forward to the message on Caleb. After he, under Joshua's leadership and with him in coordination, did a lot of fighting. He talked with Joshua and said, this mountain here, Hebron, when I saw it, when we visited the land 40-some years ago, I knew it was mine. I claim it. And there are giants there. He didn't care. He said, I'm 85. I'm as strong as I was when I was 40. I'm ready for battle. We need such a spirit. We need those younger. We'll come to this shortly. The strong young men. And we need older warriors that will enter the good land with us. And we are going to encounter huge Nephilim produced by this perverse blending of evil angels with human women and the descendants of them. For the unbelievers, they said, they made us feel like grasshoppers, and their eyes were grasshoppers. We look to the Lord to give us all a different spirit. It says of Caleb, he had a different spirit. He said, we are well able to overcome. They are bread for us. So stay to the last day of the training. Go hear about what it's like to have Nephilim for breakfast. Nephilim for brunch. Meaning the huge obstacles that stand in the way. By the faith infused into us, we not only defeat, we swallow them. Now the subpoints. The book of Numbers presents a glorious scene with standards like banners and ensigns, with formations and order. It was glorious that on earth God not only had a dwelling place, but also had an army. And those verses from Exodus indicate that in God's view, when the people of Israel marched out of Egypt, they were already an army marching forth. B, from beginning to end, the book of Numbers is a glorious book. In the beginning, God formed the army, and at the end, we have a record of the dividing of the land conquered by this the picture in Numbers shows the triune God and his chosen people mingled together as one entity, so that God may move on the earth and conquer his enemy in order to regain the earth for the fulfillment of his eternal purpose. What a reason for living. What a purpose. What a goal. And now we inserted, before we come to the actual formation of the army, we need to consider the central thought of Numbers, because this is related to Christ in very particular ways. Every aspect of the formation of the army involves Christ himself. He himself is the warrior. He is the captain. I'm thinking of Joshua chapter 5, when Joshua saw a vision of this warrior, and he asked him, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" He said, "I am the captain of the hosts of the Lord." So the Lord himself is the captain. He is the testimony typified by the law and the ark. He is the all-inclusive land that we will enter. So we need to dwell on this, and I'm suggesting, and when you get to questions, you will see why I'm suggesting this, that we look at this not naturally subjectively, but very personally, as I read through this section. The central thought of Numbers is that Christ is the meaning of life, the testimony, the center of God's people, and the leader, the way, and the goal of their journey and fighting. Without Christ, there's no army. We're just in some temporary excitement. Christ must be all of these things to us. In Numbers, Christ is revealed as the meaning of life for God's people. The Ark of the Testimony was the center of the tabernacle of the testimony. That ark typifies Christ. The law, the testimony, of the ark typifies Christ as the expression and definition of God. The ark with the tabernacle was the meaning of the Israelites' life. They left everything of the world behind. They were in the wilderness. They had manna to eat, which is Christ as their life supply. And the purpose of their life is the tent of meeting and the ark. The meaning of their life is Christ and the church. In message 2, our brother will give a word on the formation of the army. I don't want to intrude upon that message. I just point out, in relation to this matter, all the tents, the dwelling places of the families, face the tent of meeting. As I'm standing here, I'm wondering, I'm inquiring of the Lord. As you look upon everyone in the Lord's recovery today, especially in the affluent countries, in what direction are their tents facing? Have the days gone, the days of simplicity, when it was Christ and the church? That's it. That's the meaning. The ark and the tent of meeting. 3, the meaning of our human life is for God in Christ to enter into us and be expressed through us. So the intrinsic experience of being formed into an army is for you to allow Christ to enter into every part of your being and be expressed through you. And I recommend very simple prayers praying while you're in the shower, praying where you are waiting for the green left turn arrow. Lord, today, saturate me, permeate me. Go into part of my being you haven't reached before. I want to be part of your expression. Lord, fill me with your joy, with your love, with all that you are. For when we see the vision of Christ in God's economy, we begin to realize that Christ himself is the purpose of the universe and also the meaning of our human life. Okay, this is the training. This is a training. And we prayed that the Lord would hold nothing back what's in him for us. So yes, I would ask the younger ones, those in their late teens and their early 20s, the young adults, what is the meaning of your human life? The meaning of your Christian life and your church life? Then I would ask your parents, is this the message you've been giving to your growing sons and daughters all along? Or is it Christ and the church plus, plus, plus? The ark and the testimony plus. Please don't go to the full-time training. That'll distract you from your career. That will delay your married life. Please don't think of going to Germany. Just get a house 5 minutes away from me to take care of me. It should be the meaning of our human life, of our Christian life. The Christ who is the testimony of God in the tabernacle of the testimony, which is Christ himself, and also the church as his enlargement. How sad to outwardly spend decades in the local church and to meet the Son of Man and for him to say, your life was meaningless. Meaningless. It didn't become yours. You were outwardly in the church. You designed a church life to fit into your priorities. You reserved Saturday night for your own good pleasure. You set certain limits. All the while you were first. You dreamed of being in the army. You never qualified to be numbered. We'll see in a later message that the history of Israel in their failures is recorded for us. And it's a warning to us. What happened to them may happen to any one of us. So this needs to become our personal reality. Now we can go on a little brisker. B, Christ, who is the meaning of the life of God's people, is God's testimony. Since the ark typifies Christ, the meaning of the Israelites' life was to take care of Christ as the testimony of God. They were camped around it. The priests and the Levites were the closest to it. We'll see in message 3 about the serving life in the church. It has Christ as the center and the meaning. 2, in the Old Testament, the testimony refers to the law. The 2 tablets on which the law was inscribed were called the testimony and were placed in the ark. Because the testimony was put into the ark was called the ark of the testimony. See, the law of God is a testimony of what God is. It tells us what kind of God our God is. D is crucial. The law, as a portrait of what God is, typifies Christ as the embodiment of God in all his divine attributes. See, Christ is the center of God's people. We might ask the Lord as trainees, Lord, what actually is my